Hi guys, today I want to talk about macronutrients. I've just done a workout down in the garage. I'm obviously not breaking UK lockdown rules and going to the gym, but while I was there I was thinking about all the kind of bro science that goes on around training and nutrition, kind of out of that traditional bodybuilding school that's become sort of mainstream through everybody's obsession with getting enough protein. So I thought it was a good day to think about that, to talk about that and focus on macronutrients. It's a long one today, so strap yourselves in, guys. The bullshit around macros, as they're referred to by the kind of aesthetics, bodybuilding community, sports performance community, is rife. Almost everything that's written or spoken about in terms of macronutrients on social media, online forums, etc., is focusing on the wrong things. It's focusing on quantity and not quality. So it's an obsession with weighing, measuring, with grams, with tracking, using apps. We are going to refer to some quantities today, but in just to give you an idea, just to set the scene, to kind of enrich that picture for you a little bit, and give you a starting point. But it's not something to obsess about. It's not a case of weighing and measuring every day. It's about prioritizing quality. It's about balancing a meal, delivering those macronutrients. And I haven't said what they are yet, but they're the nutrients you need in the greatest quantity. So we're talking about protein, we're talking about fat, we're talking about carbohydrates. It's about quality, it's about timing, it's about meal pairing, it's about balancing what's on that plate in front of you, it's about cooking techniques, it's about so much more of importance than how many grams of X and how many grams of Y. As I say, it's not about tracking or counting. You can hit your macros, you can hit your daily calorie target if that's something that you like to do, and you can try to divine the perfect macronutrient ratio for yourself and for your training goals or for your aesthetic goals or whatever's going on in that world. You could do that theoretically in chicken nuggets, peanut butter and chocolate, but it wouldn't be advisable. I'm going to keep hammering home this point. Quality is more important than those exact quantities. And why? Because of blood sugar regulation, because of neurotransmitter balance, i.e. like what's happening to the levels of dopamine and serotonin in the body in relation to what we're eating, and then how that affects our mood, how that affects our sleep, and how that has an effect on our ability to digest what we're eating as well. We're thinking specifically about fat quality within processed foods, but also then there's going to be the quality of protein, the quality of the carbohydrates. And when we're thinking about macronutrients, if we just think about macronutrients as the standalone, almost theoretical concepts of protein, carbohydrates, and fat, we miss the fact that they're being delivered to us as part of whole foods, as part of animals, as part of plants, that then come packaged up with essential vitamins and minerals that we need, other trace elements that are necessary, antioxidants, etc. So within that beautiful package that has evolved, that nature has designed, I'm not claiming there's an intelligent designer behind the universe, by the way, but that nature has designed through natural selection. We have bioavailability. We're thinking about that and those accompanying micronutrients, like of the food we eat, what's available to us, what can we easily digest, what can we synthesize, what can we use. Edible plant and animal species, they're complex organisms. So we're thinking about going for these sources of minimally processed food because they're fantastic, convenient delivery vehicles for, yes, your macronutrients, but also your fiber, your prebiotics, your antioxidants, your vitamins, your minerals. As a general rule, when it comes to food, if it's coming off a production line and it's in a packet and it's ready to eat, and you look at the list of ingredients on the back of the packet and there's more than one or two, it should be eaten very, very rarely. Most of us should be pursuing a food first approach, real food first, before supplementation, but also in terms of the type of food, going for real whole food sources rather than something processed and packaged. And the right macronutrient ratio for you is whatever you want it to be. It's provided it's comprised of whole foods, minimally processed, lovingly prepared and cooked at home. And when you look at your plate, you want it to be about 3/4 organic, natural plant foods, predominantly vegetables with some fruit, and the other quarter is wild caught fish or pasture raised meat, looking for high welfare standards of farmed stuff, with naturally occurring sources of fat within the meat, the fish, the vegetables, and maybe a little bit extra in the form of nuts and avocados and extra virgin olive oil and things like that. In my opinion, an omnivore who prioritizes fewer but higher quality animal products is striking the best balance between what's necessary for their health and what's beneficial, optimal for their health, and environmentalism. Yes, it costs more, but cost focuses the mind. When something is more expensive, you're more appreciative of that good, of that service. You're more thankful for it. If it's food, you'll cook it with greater love, and the eating of it therefore will be more enjoyable. Right, that's my introduction. Let's drill down a bit. Let's start with fat. And I want to start with fat because it's been demonized for 50 years. Fat per se does not harm you. And when we're thinking about types of fat, saturated fat is no more harmful to health than mono or polyunsaturated fats. But again, thinking about saturated, mono, poly, etc., omega-6, omega-3, we're getting away from thinking, what is that? In the real world, what type of foods are they? What's your delivery mechanism for your fat? So if we're thinking about poly or mono or saturated, whatever it is, what's it coming as part of in terms of a plant or with meat or with fish? That's how we should be prioritizing our mental energy around fat. He's not thinking about quantity and demonizing fat, or thinking about balancing saturated with unsaturated, but what's the delivery mechanism? Whole foods, quality, organic, well cooked, cooked at home, etc. What we know we should be minimizing when it comes to fat are trans fats. These are fats that have been changed in their nature in the act of kind of processing food at very high temperatures on factory lines. How do we stay away from that? Eat fewer processed foods. Eat more home cooked, from scratch, from whole food sources. In terms of types of fat, all I want to focus on today is making sure that we're thinking about the amount of omega-3 fats, fatty acids that we're getting in our diet. Most of us consume a diet that's relatively low in omega-3 sources. So we're thinking about oily fish, we're thinking about omega-3 enriched eggs. That's usually when they feed the chickens a good kind of vegetable source or a plant source rather, of omega-3, like flaxseed, for example, then us eating flaxseed ourselves and cutting out the middleman. Pasture-raised beef, so beef that's allowed to graze the field and eat grass rather than is fed grain and soya and things within a barn. And then on the omega-6 side of things, getting those types of fats rather than from processed foods or factory farmed meat or refined seed or vegetable oils, going for like extra virgin olive oil, nuts, avocados for monounsaturated fats, things like that. So again, rather than thinking, how do I get omega-3 in, let's think, how do I get more oily fish? Can I use extra virgin olive oil rather than refined vegetable and seed oils? Can I think about where my meat has come from? Can I think about the types of eggs that I eat? There are fat conversations, not necessarily about quantity or type.